So when I say good morning, I would very much like to hear it back. All right, is everybody ready? Ready. All right. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. All right, my name is Noah. I'm with the Arundel Conflict Resolution Center, and today I'll be presenting on conflict resolution skills. All right. Anne Arundel County Resolution Center has been around since 1993. That's over 30 years of providing a free service to the community. We do a whole bunch of mediation types. So any kind of conflict that you can think of, any kind of beef you can think of, you can bring it to us and we'll help you figure it out. We do neighbor to neighbor, family member, landlord-tenant, parenting plans, all types of stuff. We work with a lot of homeowners associations as well, so, any kind of thing that's going on for y'all, make sure you bring it to us. We also do anger management workshops. We do parenting, co-parenting workshops. We do relationship workshops, all types of stuff. All right. So let me get this clicker out. All right, that was welcome in the introduction. All right, so this is an interactive session, so I'm asking some questions, all right? So can anybody tell me what they think conflict is, or what they know conflict to be? Thank you very much.
Any disagreement.
Any disagreement, okay. Who else has an idea of what conflict is? All right, thank you.
One disagreement is where there's an impasse.
An impasse. Okay.
If I can chime in for a moment, when you talk, feel free to press down on these buttons, and they're actually microphones, so we can all hear you. But only when you're called on. It's like when you.
Look, I'm gonna be honest. I'm okay with a little chaos. If you're not called on, you just start talking.
For this presentation.
All right. Sorry. You said impasse, right?
But it's two steps. There may be a conflict, and there's not.
There's one closer to you on that side.
Where there's conflict, but that the individuals either won't come together or won't make any strides in resolving the issue.
Exactly. Yeah, that makes sense, right? Like, okay, let's take, for example, you're going to your friend's bachelor party. He's saying the dress code is going to be all white. And then the other guy's saying, but it's after Labor Day. We can't do that, right? That's an impasse. That's conflict. That's not all conflicts. That's a pretty petty conflict. But it can take a range of different forms. So how we define conflict is a struggle or disagreement between people, groups, or ideas due to differences in needs, values, beliefs, goals, or perceptions. It is a natural part of human interaction and can be either constructive or destructive, depending on how it's handled. So if we're talking about like the white party versus it's after Labor Day, we can't wear white kind of thing, right? Not wearing white after Labor Day is core to this dude's belief. It's his religion, right? So if you're thinking about how we're gonna solve that, it's gonna be tough to get past that. But there's always compromise. We could all wear cream. So there are 4 primary types of conflict. So we've got personal conflict, which is between people. We have interpersonal, not between people. So personal conflict is like internal conflict, right? Like, oh man, this person just asked me a question. Should I tell the truth or keep my friend's secret? Oh, has my wife been cheating on me? I don't know. And that's the kind of personal conflict. That's maybe a little bit of personal conflict that we're talking about. When it comes to interpersonal conflict, that's person to person, right? Like we were talking about with the all-white party versus, anything else kind of party, that's between two different people. Another example that might be a little more relevant to this group is feeling conflicted about participating in like a protest or something, right? Like, man, I really care about this issue, but I also need to go to work tomorrow. What am I gonna choose, right? It can be difficult to make those decisions sometimes, and that's a little conflict that can arise. There's also group conflict, intergroup conflict, that's between groups, right? So one group is like, oh man, I really wanna, schedule this event on this day, right? And another group is like, but that's a holiday. Are you just gonna like offend everybody on Twitter for this one event? Like, don't do that, right? And that could create a really large dynamic that can bring a whole lot of conflict between two different groups. Intergroup conflict is also another thing that might be difficult to grapple with. If there's a disagreement among like youth group members about how to spend the funds, right? Like, hey, we want to buy scooters, and the other one is like, well, we kind of need to pay the taxes. That would probably be a good idea, right? Sometimes our priorities are really misaligned with the people that we're arguing with, and it can be tough to navigate those sometimes. So a few common causes of conflict in community settings are right here. So we've got miscommunication, we've got unmet needs, got limited resources, we got differing values, cultural differences, power imbalances, and historical tension. So can anybody give me an example of what miscommunication could look like? Or an example of how, they've been affected by miscommunication in the past? Sure, I'll get both of y'all, so could I get you first?
Sure, so I'll just yell and you can't hear me say something. Miscommunication, so that's easy. Anything you read on social media, right? So people say one thing, may or may not be.
That makes a lot of sense, right? Like, oh, the dress was blue. No, the dress was white and gold, right? And does anybody remember that? Or maybe it's just you remember. Okay, raise your hand if you remember, so I don't feel so alone. Okay, look at that. That's a good percentage of the room. And ma'am up there?
I was told when I first moved into my house when it was built that I would be back up to the woods, but then I built another development behind the house.
Oh, no. That's your whole slice of heaven was snatched from you. Oh my gosh. I don't know. I wouldn't sue, but I would be in a suing mood. All right. Now, so that's very accurate. Y'all have the correct, understanding of what miscommunication is, right? You get, a message that says one thing, or at least you read it as one thing, and then, the time comes for that thing to happen, and it's completely different from your expectation. Unmet needs. Who has an example of that?
Me again.
Okay. Yeah, 2 people.
We pay recreation dues every year, and they have yet to build any recreation facilities.
Oh man. So where is the money going? Oh man. See, when there's the smile like this, you know something's up.
Not enough kayak racks.
Not enough kayak racks. Where are the kayaks gonna go? The kayaks are expensive. You can't just leave them anywhere. All right, but yeah, that makes sense, right? Unmet needs can cause a lot of conflict in community settings, right? Man, my kayak is all busted up. I put it in this shed. I rent a space. I rent a rack for my kayak, and now it's messed up. How are we gonna fix this, right? And the longer a person is not heard on their need, the louder that they'll get. Limited resources. I think we've already, heard about limited resources, right? Like, oh yeah, we're paying into this fund, but I mean, the thing that it was supposed to fund does not exist.
I see the greatest limited resource in the community association, volunteers, enough volunteers to do all the many things we need and want to do.
Most definitely. I was a volunteer manager at my last job, and lots of silence and cricket when I need something done. But so it definitely makes sense. And volunteerism is really important, and it's also really hard to do, right? Like, especially if we're thinking mediation, right? Like, why am I going to take off time from work to listen to somebody else's problems for free, right? Like, that's at night or on weekends kind of thing. And then mediation participants, they want it during the day, so they can just get it out the way. Once they come home, they don't want to do mediation. So it creates, a rough contrast. Differing values. You can give me an example of what that might look like.
I don't have kids. Why am I paying for a playground?
Yes, exactly. Why am I paying for a playground?
I believe in native landscaping versus hardscaping.
You said native landscaping versus hardscaping?
Yeah.
Okay. Could you tell me what the difference is?
Native landscaping would be to use native plants within a landscape, and hardscaping would be putting in rocks or bricks or impervious surface.
That makes sense. That makes sense. No walkways. Yes, walkways. I get it. I can see the difference. And it's definitely can be a big pain point for homeowners associations, because one person's living next door, they're fine with their natural stuff, right? They get it hedged, they get it, manicured, everything. Everybody on the block is the same way. Then here comes the hot shot. Oh yeah, I want to dump a whole bunch of gravel in this street. That's gonna be a problem. Somebody's gonna complain. So I can see that. What about cultural differences? We're all the same culture. We all have the same religion. We all refuse to wear white after Labor Day. All right, go ahead.
Way back when, I was working at Crownsville Hospital, and because of the cultural differences, if somebody were to say, I was so embarrassed I would have died, I could have died, we had a doctor who put them down as suicidal tendencies.
Oh, man. I get you on that one. Oh, man, I could just die. Oh, man, I think I'm going to kill myself. Those are really dangerous words to speak, I'm going to be honest. When I was a kid, right, there was this song. I think it's like Kanye's song. He's canceled now, but it's still a good song. It's like, the chorus is like, I'm jumping out the window, right? Like, and I was just singing that because it's a good song. Somebody reported me. They was like, hey, this kid is running around. He's singing this song. I don't know. My mom was called. She was like, what is this? Did I hear about you trying to kill you? You have a good life. You have a roof over your head. Blah, 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 blah. I think that's one of my first, experiences with conflict that I'm cognizant of, and that's definitely a cultural difference kind of thing for sure. What about power imbalances? Go ahead.
Can I get a show of hands on how many people are in condominiums? Okay, well then you won't relate to this, but the declaration of a condominium sometimes states who the governing body is. And it'll either be the council of unit owners or the board. And if it's the council of unit owners, then that means the owners can vote on pretty much anything at the annual meetings. But if the boards just don't let you, they're ignoring the declaration.
Ignoring the declaration? Like, what happens if they ignore it? Can anybody just be like, hey man, it's right here, look at it?
Well, because it's in the declaration, it's not violating state law, so the Attorney General will not help.
That's an injustice. That sucks. And that definitely can cause some conflict, right? You pull up to the meeting, you thought you was gonna have a vote, and they're like, and moving on. It sucks to be miscounted. And then lastly, historical tensions. Anybody got Romeo and Juliet type beef? Go ahead.
I don't have Romeo and Juliet. My name is Tatiana. I'm representing NAACP. And we recently hosted a meeting discussing the redistricting of Anne Arundel County. And something that came up often in this meeting was the historical tension about redlining and what that means for the students and how segregation in our history has affected where kids go to school. So that was a hot topic in that meeting.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. The town I'm from, Teaneck, New Jersey, what's it called? There was the Great Migration that happened, I guess, around the 1960s. Black people come from New York, moving to New Jersey, moving to the suburbs, right? And even till this day, there's a white side and a black side. The white people are Jewish, and then the black side is black people, Puerto Ricans, and Filipinos, and everybody else, right? And even while all these things have been supposedly repealed, right, there's still stuff like gerrymandering and all this other kind of stuff that keeps people separated, and that can make people very angry. Ergo, conflict. Anybody else got historical tensions? All right. All right. So, who can tell me what emotional intelligence is? And don't read that. That's cheating. Well, yes, read it, but not wait until the question is answered by at least one person. Go ahead.
The premise behind emotional intelligence is understanding what your triggers are. As humans, we're wired to respond emotionally 85% faster than rationally. So by understanding your triggers, calming your response, and waiting for the rational part of your brain to kick in, you're displaying emotional intelligence.
My man's brought up the statistics. I see you. How do you know that? I just need to know.
Oh, a career in training and development.
Exactly, look at that, right? We got an expert in the room with us. And he's definitely right? People are wired, right? Just take, for example, when you're angry, right? Your brain is designed to keep you angry, right? Once you get angry, it wants to make that last as long as possible so you can get out of any possible situation, right? It's not designed to have you chill out, because if you chill out, at least back in prehistoric times or whatever, you get eaten. Exactly, you get eaten. So, you gotta, your brain tries to keep you on edge. And emotional intelligence is fighting all those urges, right? To blow up, to act a fool, to ruin somebody's day, right? Take some deep breaths and think it through and communicate in a way that calms the other person and calms yourself, right? So specifically reading from here, it's the ability to recognize, understand, manage, and use emotions, both your own and others, to communicate effectively
build relationships, and resolve conflicts. You identify personal triggers and emotions without reacting impulsively, right? Somebody says, oh man, did you cook that? That shit smells terrible, right? Taking a deep breath. This is my culture. I really love this food. You should try it sometime. If you're not trying to, connect with me on this kind of level, then I would appreciate it if you stop talking about my food. Instead of, what? You think this smells bad? Well, you're gonna smell it a lot closer. And that's a threat. We don't make threats in here. It also keeps emotions in check to allow thoughtful communication and helps understand others' emotional needs and points of view, right? The easiest way to bring down the heat of an argument is to check in and ask questions, right? Not accusatory questions like, oh yeah? Oh, where were you then? Not in that kind of way, right? But, all right, you said something about, what's it called? Let's pretend that in this situation, I'm the guy who built a property right in front of your woods, the woods that was promised to be yours, right? And I'm you in this situation, right? I'm just pretending that I'm angry. I'm sure you're not angry at that dude, but I'm pretending that I'm you and I'm angry. Why'd you build a house right in front of my woods? What's wrong with you? And the guy's like, all right, so I think I'm hearing, feeling surprised and shocked and disappointed and betrayed. Is that right? You'd be like, oh yeah, man, because you promised me, because I was promised this thing and it hasn't been delivered on. A lot of times, the heat in the other person's voice will dissipate when we address it, right? But if he just said, oh yeah, well, I mean, that's just the way it is. Who in their right mind is calming down when they hear that? You turn the dial up, right? So, listening intently is very helpful in distressing situations. All right. So, emotions and perceptions impact conflict in these ways, right? Emotions are a natural part of conflict. So, whether it's a knockdown, drag-out fight, or it's, something simple like, oh, I want Chinese food today. Well, no, I want pizza. That's still conflict, and it still arises. Hopefully, it's not a knockdown, drag-out fight. But for some people, it can. I've definitely seen it happen. They serve as signals about what matters to us, right? I love pizza. I love Chinese food, right? And when unmanaged, emotions can escalate conflict. Oh, so what are you saying about pizza? You're saying pizza's not good? Well, what are you saying about Chinese? You're saying Chinese doesn't taste good? What's wrong with you? Right? If we allow ourselves to get sucked into that, things escalate. And perceptions, right? Perceptions are how we interpret what's happening. It's often shaped by our upbringing, culture, beliefs, and past, right? The doctor who wrote that anybody who said, I want to kill myself, who wrote anybody that was like that is at risk for suicidality, he has a core belief that any joke or any mention or any talk about suicide is a serious thing and has to be addressed. That's a core belief for him, right? So while some other people might be like, oh, that's kind of silly, that's kind of overboard, right? I'm sure that as many people told him it was silly, it was overboard, whatever, the more entrenched he got into, oh, we need to stop this epidemic of people joking about suicide, right? So acknowledging those perceptions and addressing those perceptions, right, are the easiest way
to get closer to a resolution with somebody that we're having a challenged relationship with. Two people can experience the same event and perceive it very differently, right? The people that are like on the council versus the condominium owners, right? Both of them think, hey man, this is the way that it's supposed to work, right? Oh, you know, the state, the government says, oh yes, it's fine if you make the decision without them. So they're just gonna act within that, you know, within that vein, right? And the condo owners are like, but it says right here in the bylaws that we have the right to do it. Why are you not respecting our right to do it? This is the same situation. Two people are viewing it very differently. And assumptions fill in gaps in communication, often inaccurately, right? So, a guy says, oh yeah, I'll bring it to you next week. All right. So you're thinking, oh yeah, I could really use it Monday next week, but he knows I need it, you know, pretty quickly, right? He'll just bring it Monday or Tuesday, he'll be fine. Sunday comes around. What is wrong with you? I told you that I needed this for the week. It's literally the weekend. That's not part of the week. So technically, Sunday is like the first day of the week anyway. So what's wrong with you? Right? Two people having, you know, completely different perceptions of time, right? And assumptions have filled in the gaps, right? The person who brought the stuff on Sunday is like, well, you said next week. It's next week. Sunday is like the end of the week, right? And the one who needed the stuff is like, well, actually, Sunday is like the beginning of the week if you look at any calendar. And I told you I needed the stuff during the week, and it was like work-related stuff. So like, how am I gonna get it in on a weekend, right? That makes no sense. So be clear as possible when you communicate with other people. Hey, this is a work thing. I really need it by Wednesday. And all of this probably could have been avoided. All right. So emotions are indicators of deeper needs. Unacknowledged emotions escalate conflict, and emotions can be constructive, right? So if somebody is, well, I'm gonna put this out to you. So what are some ways that emotions can be constructive in any kind of conflict?
From a signaling perspective, so if somebody is showing emotions, then you have a better understanding of where they're coming from.
Exactly, right? Like, nobody really likes crying, but like, it helps you get stuff out. And if somebody's crying when you start talking about something, you know, hey, maybe that's something we gotta, you know, explore. We gotta figure that out. Who else?
I also think it can create empathy if you really understand what is driving a person's emotional behavior.
Exactly, right? Like for some people, it really takes like seeing somebody break down for them to be like, oh, okay, this is a problem, right? If you say, oh yeah, this is really hurting me. If you say, ouch, that hurts, ouch, that hurts, ouch, that hurts. It takes like, oh no, my leg. They need that to actually understand and for it to register that they're causing pain. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think emotions can kind of be reflective of the end too, where it's like the reason for living is so that we can be emotional about things and love and joy and so forth. So sometimes I think we try to ignore emotions so much and be rational. So I think that's the positivity of it too. And keep in mind that we actually don't want to live in an area of gray necessarily. We want to live in an area of where we can really enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Muted colors. I mean, look, if anybody in here likes the color salmon, I respect it. But orange or pink, that's living out loud. So these are the styles of conflict. One second, let me check time. I started at 12, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I started at 12. All right, so I'm gonna go a little bit longer, but it still might be less than an hour. I don't know. We'll see. All right, so the different conflict styles. There's avoiding, there's accommodating, there's competing, collaborating, and compromising. So these conflict styles were developed in the 1970s by, sorry, 1 second. My notes are back. All right. So by Kenneth Thomas and Ralph Kilman in the 1970s, right? Think of them as a continuum, right? You got your window right here, right? And each of them are on a level of assertiveness or cooperativeness, right? On that kind of scale. And depending on how high or low the assertiveness or cooperativeness is, that's where you'll find your style. So who can tell me what assertiveness means? Or what it means to be assertive? Or how it feels like to be assertive? Go ahead.
I think being assertive is coming across as confident and stern.
Mm-hmm. So coming across as confident, I can see that. Right? Like, oh, walk in the place like you own it, but not too much because the owner will look at you sideways. Who else? No, go ahead.
Just effectively stating your position in a respectful manner so that you respect the other person, but you're stating your position.
I get you. Standing firm, right? And like making it known, hey, I respect you, but this is my take on it. And to be honest, maybe it's a little better than yours. But I'm not gonna say yours is bad. I just gotta say it. You just gotta put it out there. What does cooperative? Oh, go ahead.
On a negative side of assertiveness, it would be to go into a situation saying, this is the way it has to be, and not being able to respect the other viewpoints.
Or interrupting like this.
Oh, shots fired.
That's working.
But I told y'all, look, it's a free-for-all. If y'all want to talk, you just let me know. But yeah, I can definitely understand that. Although I would say that assertiveness doesn't always have to be, what's it called? Aggressive and also, I guess, ignorant, right? Like, it doesn't always mean, hey, I'm not listening to any other opinions. Did you have something? Oh, I thought you raised your hand. I'm sorry. All right. But yeah. And cooperativeness. What does it look like for people to cooperate? Go ahead.
When you agree with them.
Okay, when you agree with them. But can you cooperate with somebody and not agree with them?
Yes.
All right, that's something to consider. Go ahead.
When you want to work together for a final goal.
That makes sense, right? Being in agreement, working together, right? 2 heads better than 1, 5 heads probably better than 2. Go ahead.
Listening.
Keep them ears open and that mouth closed. That's what my mom used to say all the time. So when it comes to avoiding, right, where that looks like on the continuum, sorry, I'm bringing it up. some reason it's not showing. But avoiding is basically low on cooperation, right? And it's also low on assertiveness. I don't want to work with you, and I don't want to tell you what I think. I think you just need to stay over there, and I need to be over here, and I don't want to mess with that, right? And that in avoiding can have a negative connotation, right? But avoiding things isn't always bad, right? You see a dude in the middle of the street, I got a knife. Do you want to go over, hey, how you doing? I see that knife you got there. It's a pretty cool looking knife. Whoa, whoa, whoa. No, get over there. What is wrong with you? Call the police or somebody, right? I can't handle that. So avoiding can be a good strategy sometimes. Then when it comes to accommodating, right? Accommodating is, I guess, higher on the, what's it called? Higher, thank you very much. Higher on compromise, right? Lower on assertive, right? Because, hey, I'll just do whatever you want to do, right? Sometimes that can be good, right? If you're in a situation where it's like, oh, this person has power, right? Or, oh, this person has more knowledge than me in this area, accommodating can be good, right? But when you know that this is bunk and you have the power to change it and you just accommodate, it gets iffy sometimes. All right? So now that you've seen me do two, I want y'all to try the next two. So for collaborating, right? Where would you say compromise falls and where would you say assertiveness falls? Oh, sorry, not compromise. Sorry, get up. Assertiveness, cooperativeness, yeah. So for collaboration, where would you say assertiveness and collaborativeness fall? High, low, low, high? What?
I would say it's higher on the cooperative side.
And what about assertiveness? I'd say that be high on assertiveness and high on, what's it called? I just keep getting mixed up. And cooperative, right? Because when you're collaborating, right, you're putting your idea out there, right? And you're saying, okay, you put your idea out here, and then we're going to try to mash them together. That's what a compromise is, right? I mean, that's what a collaboration is, right? A little bit here, a little bit there. It's not a compete because, hey, it's not like my way is going to win, your way is going to lose, right? It's more together. So it'll be high on collaboration and also high on assertiveness because you're making sure that you're working with another person and you're also making sure that your voice is heard. Then for competition, right? What do you think the high and low of that looks like for assertiveness and cooperativeness?
High on assertiveness.
Okay. And what about cooperativeness?
Low.
Right on the money, right? I don't want to hear none of that. My idea is the best idea. Don't play with me, right? That's competition type of energy. All right. So there's no right or wrong approach, right? All of these have, good uses at any given point in time, right? Avoid always has a use. Compete always has a use. Compromise always has a use, all right? You can use multiple approaches in one situation, right? So let's pretend we're talking about the, let me see, I'm trying to think of a situation that y'all brought up, but I'm drawing a blank. So where would y'all think that two of these could come together? Avoiding, well, any two of these. Just make a mashup. Go ahead.
I think accommodating and compromising are often in conversation whenever you're trying to negotiate what you need.
That makes sense, yeah, right? So, sometimes it's gotta be like, all right, well, you really care about you not wearing white after Labor Day. Okay. And I don't like cream. So whatever color we pick, it's not gonna be white, but I'm gonna pick it, right? And that's, a compliment. Anybody else? Well, who else? Because I'm waiting. Go ahead.
So I'll pick the bottom two, collaborating and compromising. So during the board meeting, there's an issue that comes up, and the board members will collaborate to figure out how we're going to solve this and come up with a compromise. Somebody might want to raise the dues a certain amount, and somebody might not want to raise the dues at all. Compromise would say, hey, we'll split, divide whatever the increase is in half. That's a compromise, collaborate and get there.
Yeah, that makes sense, right? Like you collaborate on an agenda, but then after that, there's gonna have to be some give and take. Everybody's opinion is valid when it comes to figuring out what the problems are, but once we get there, once we come to solutions, maybe a different approach has to happen. Were you saying something or raising your hand or anything? No? Okay, cool. Gotcha.
So no, if I can, I have a question that is outside of your presentation.
No, go ahead.
I'm interested in your organization. So the example that I think of is a lot of time we have residents in our HOA that have some type of disagreement. A lot of times they'll come to the management company or the board of directors and say, we want you to solve this problem, but from a legal perspective, it's not an HOA rule. It's a neighbor to neighbors, right? And as an example of that, the neighbor put up a motion detection light. When the light comes on, the other neighbor walks out, triggers the motion detection light from the other neighbor, and they don't like it, so it's shining here.
Oh, so it's like a flash mob.
Exactly. So my question is, how do people, can we refer people to your organization, the Conflict Resolution Center in Arundel County, to help mediate these types of situations where it's not really a HOA type of rule?
Most definitely. That one sounds like an important issue. I did a mediation over a Pac-Man machine once. Anything, can be a mediation where the conversation I had.
Your business might pick up.
Oh, well, thank you very much. We're always looking for new customers, y'all, and it's free. So I say customers, but I mean all that it costs is, I guess, time. Yeah. All right. So it would be really helpful for each of you to know your own style so that moving forward, right, that whenever you're having a disagreement with someone, you're having a challenging moment, right, knowing your conflict style and adjusting for whatever situation you're approaching is good. I am an accommodator through and through, right? It's always whatever you want, right? Like if somebody's like, hey, when are you free? Oh, just tell me, when you have some time in your day and I'll just figure it out, right? I'll give them generally days that I have basically nothing going on. I give general time frames. I don't give specific stuff because specific stuff that always throws me off, right? I say, oh yeah, 3 p.m. Wednesday. Oh yeah, I can't do 3 p.m. Wednesday. Could you do 1 p.m. Wednesday? No, I would have suggested 1 p.m. Wednesday if I could do 1 p.m. Wednesday, and then it goes on and on and on and on. So yeah, I let a lot of stuff slide. Sometimes I'll put my foot down. Hey man, that's not right. That's not it. But I'm gonna be honest, it's like 20% of the time. Who else thinks they understand what their conflict style might be?
I think my conflict style depends on who I'm working with. If it's a partner, family, an organization, it's all going to change depending on and who it is.
So I guess with those three domains, what would you say for each? So partner, friends, and then you said, partner, family, work, right? Those are the three?
In my personal life, I think I can be more accommodating and more business-oriented or community-oriented. I tend to be more assertive.
I get you. You gotta take charge. Take the bull by the horns. That's the saying, right? I'm not messing that up. Okay, fantastic. And as you just said, assess situations and use the best approach for the situation, right? If you're with friends and stuff like that, or you're with family, it's okay if you just let things slide. But at work, I don't know, bruh. That's playing with fire. You gotta say something before something happens. All right. So communication skills for resolution. Communication can either be a bridge to understanding or a barrier, right? If you spend all your time talking and no time doing, that's a problem. But if you also spend all your time doing and not enough time talking about what you're doing, you also have another problem, right? And the balance can be different for everyone, right? Depending on your industry, if everybody generally knows like what certain things mean and what the processes are for those things, then talking about those processes is gonna waste time and it might even confuse people, right? But if you're speaking with an audience that doesn't know how any of the stuff works, right? Just doing the thing and waiting for the reaction is also gonna be a problem. Communication skills also require taking action to improve those skills, right? So, it can be really helpful if you're, in a conversation with somebody, right? Because any conversation will have, little conflicts in there, right? Like, oh yeah, I think Green Day is the best day ever. What are you talking about? Right? It's playful, but it's still conflict, right? And from those smaller conversations we have, right, we can practice identifying what each person's, conflict style might be, right? If you're talking to a person who seems like they have no opinions whatsoever, it's probably an accommodator, right? If you're with a person that argues with you all the time, that's probably compete, right? If you're with somebody that's like, okay, well maybe, the Green Day is not the best band, but at least it's better than I don't know any other bands like that. But let's pretend there was a band I knew in there, right? Then you know that person is a compromise. And the more you do that thought exercise, the easier it'll be to identify. And it plays an essential role in conflict resolution and has the power to escalate or de-escalate, right? So if you meet somebody where they're at, if you meet a compete with a compete, I don't know how that's gonna work for you. That's probably gonna be pretty rough, right? But if you take a more tactical approach to it, if you're okay compromising a little bit, or if you're okay accommodating at least on this one thing, you're probably in for an easier time with this person in this situation. All right, so just some tips for communication skills. Listen to understand, not to respond. And I'm sure everybody in here has heard that because it's kind of like a buzzword phrase at this point, right? But that listening is, it has to be done with a purpose. It's not just being quiet, right? Be like, I wonder what what I'm gonna have for lunch today. Are they still talking? Oh my God. Like that's definitely not listening, right? And it's also not, being quiet and like hearing everything, but trying to make it look like you're listening as much as possible. Yeah. Most definitely. That's not listening either, because you're focusing so much on nodding your head and saying yes, definitely, that you're missing the whole enchilada. One of the most effective ways to listen is to repeat or reflect the things that person has said, right? Right, if somebody's like, oh yeah, man, they completely, ignore our, power when it comes to the condos, right? We have it in our bylaws that we can make decisions on this thing, and it doesn't happen, right? A reflection to that could be, so I think I'm hearing, feeling ignored. I also think I'm hearing that you think this is unjust, right? And looking for some understanding and how would I say, adherence, to the bylaws. Is that right? You'd probably say, yeah, that's definitely what's happening, right? And that gets buy-in from the other person. And it takes practice, and it doesn't have to necessarily be like that, because I did that like a mediator, not like, oh, hey, yeah, it sounds like you're really mad about that. That works too, right? It sounds like you're mad about that. Sounds like that frustrates you. That's also a way to respond when somebody tells you something that they care about, and that is a great way of showing that you're listening and kind of testing yourself that you're listening, right? Focus on the issue, not the person, right? You're not a bad person. You're not a stupid person. That was just a stupid idea. Right? Or that was just a bad idea, right? It's always the idea, not the person, right? Even, look, sometimes if you make a lot of bad decisions and you do a lot of stupid stuff, maybe a lot of people think you're a stupid person, but that's not going to feel good to the stupid person. So say, hey, that was a stupid idea. All right? If you're going to take one thing away from this, take that away. Use I statements instead of you accusations, right? I feel like this happens, right? Not, I feel like you always do this, or I feel like you always do that, right? I feel like this situation happens. I feel like a lot of times when we're trying to figure out what's going to happen with the condo next year, our ideas and our suggestions are ignored, right? Not you always ignore them, but I feel like they are ignored. It takes the person out of it, and the person who might be responsible for the thing that you're talking about, right, can now interact with it like it's a phenomenon and not something they're doing wrong. Pause before reacting, like you were saying, right? Take those deep breaths, regulate yourself when you hear some crazy stuff. And then make sure you watch your body language. But not too much, because we don't want you doing this. You'd be like, yeah, most definitely. I was talking to a guy maybe a year ago, right? And I could tell that he was listening to me, but like his body language was throwing me all the way off. Because he'd like shake your hand and be like, yeah, yeah, definitely. That's good. Yeah, what do you think about that? I'm like, bro, why is your head like bobbling? Right? So watch the body language. Don't be too distracted. But also, don't look off into space and wonder what you're having for lunch. So what questions do y'all have? I know I'm running out of time.
Go ahead. You're with the Conflict Resolution Center?
Yes, Anne Arundel County.
One thing I found is that neighbors are always willing to talk, but when they get emails from the Conflict Resolution Center, because it uses the word conflict, it's harder to get turnout. So I guess my question is also reaching the homeowners to encourage their participation. Getting the homeowners' email addresses is challenging. So from your perspective, there's a statute, I don't know the equivalent for HOAs, but for condominiums, it's 11-116, books and records. Email addresses are not exempt from books and records that have to be disclosed. So what can your office do to help facilitate compliance with that law so that the people that are trying to organize to work with you and the CRC can actually get the email addresses so that you can contact them for those meetings?
Well, that's definitely, I'll get your information and I'll have the center reach out to you about that more specifically. But like you're saying, mediation is a completely voluntary process. So if conflict in the title throws you off and you don't even want to speak to a person to see what it's about, then mediation probably isn't for you. But there's always another solution, right? So if a facilitation might help, if being on the phone with somebody might help, if, people have to be a presentation about what the services are to that board, right? Or whoever else is in the association, right? Just about the services in general, not even about like, hey, we want a specific session with you. If that could help, that's also something that's on the table, right? Go ahead.
Can you speak a little bit about how you arrive at, say, compromise in terms of, I've heard a distinction made between consensus and consent. And I'm kind of intrigued by the idea of consent because consensus is like y'all are agreeing. Voting is, like majority rule. But consent allows people to say, I'll go along. I don't necessarily, I'm not going to be in consensus with this, but I'll go along with it as long as there's some accountability down the road and we can reevaluate and see how it's worked out kind of thing. Does the Conflict Resolution Center approach that way, or do you just shoot for compromise through a consensus, and if you can't arrive at compromise through consensus, well, it didn't work? And any advice in terms of running an organization, and when you have these difficult situations, is this idea of consent kind of a way to maybe move forward without having to get consensus?
Well, I'd say that consent, I guess, is more individual focus, and consensus is on the group level, right? So for every individual concern that each person is raising, a mediator's job is to ask, okay, so we're looking at this whole thing that y'all have come up with, right? We've asked you all the possible solutions you can think of for these specific topics or issues, right? You brought up, looking for more accountability when it comes to this. Do we have ideas here that fulfill that for you? Or are there other things that you could think of that would fulfill that? We're trying to figure out all the time, right? How can we check as many boxes for each individual as possible in this agreement, if we come to an agreement, as possible, right? Because if you don't agree on something, or you don't take initiative, or you don't feel like you were prioritized in a meeting with that happening, then you're just not going to do the stuff. I mean, you can sign the document, but if you don't actually want to do any of the stuff, then you're just not going to do it. So go ahead.
So the one thing, none of us want to lead meetings are time wasters. And this sounds very compromising, it's time eater, right? It's necessary. So you find ways to help facilitate it that's meaningful for everybody, where everybody feels included and had a voice. And so I would recommend trying the gradients of agreement, using that as your ground rules or your decorum up front. And so for instance, it's veto, don't like but will support, support with reservations, agree with a minor point of contention, and then wholehearted endorsement. And if you agree to that up front, it actually helps you come to consensus or consent sooner and a lot less dialogue.
Well, I mean, maybe that'd be helpful for you, but in a for you, but for mediation, we have to get that dialogue out, because a lot of times it's just a bunch of pent up, like in a board meeting, it's okay for people to be like, okay, yeah, I'm good with that, or I'm not good with that. But we need some of the history, because some of the history is playing into whatever inability there is to agree here.
Sorry, do you mind repeating the name that you just said, gradient of agreement?
Gradients of agreement.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
But yeah, I'm definitely gonna look into that some more too, for sure.
Arundel, you're cutting too much.
Okay, fantastic. See, that's the thing. I can talk to me forever, so thank y'all very much. Yes, well, was it a conflict? I feel like I just accommodated. All right. So please scan that, if you gotta do anything, you do your thing.
All right, thank you, Noah. All right, everyone. We have lunch ready for you. If you go out into the hallway,